to identify the variables to tell me one is going slower and one is going faster. Now they already told you the speeds they say one friend is driving at 60 when you take a look at the problem, and the other driver is going at 55 miles an hour. So we already know those two speeds when X is equal to the person going 55. You could tell me X is going 55, but you really are using the 55 and the 60 when you write your two equations. So you have your slower, because the question says, how are they splitting each day's driving? Meaning, how many hours is each person going to drive? So the next thing you know is it says that they plan to spend no more than 10 hours. So no more than 10 means X plus Y is going to be less or equal to 10. Now, when you look at these equations, one of the first things I would tell you is you could rewrite this in slope-intercept form, but generally, and this is going to be more for the second part of this test, the linear, when we do the linear programming Friday, and then next week when we have a quiz with that, is that it's probably a lot easier to find at this point your y-intercept, which if I plug in x is 0, what is y going to be? 10. That's how they got this point right here, 0, 10, right? And then you're going to plug in another point, and you're going to plug in, when y is 0, x should be 10, right? So they get these 2 points, and they draw a solid line, and they shade below it, okay? Next thing, if we are looking at the problem, it says that they want to drive at least 500 miles per day, right? So if we're going at least 500 miles per day, the question is, could we go 600, 700? So when I was looking at this one, where's Ava? We were doing this one, it should have been greater or equal, right? So our second equation that we want to take a look at, we might want to say, okay, now using their speeds, so the slower one was going 55x plus 60y, that's our fast person. And that's because you're taking your speed times your defined distance. It's your rate times time. X is our hours, right? So these are always our hours that we're looking for. The X and Y, those are my hours. And this has to be greater or equal to 500. Well, again, this time take out those calculators if you need to. If I replace X with 0 in this equation, I'm going to have 60Y equals 500. 600 divided by, or 500 divided by 60 gives me how much? 8 what? 8.3. 8.3. I'm going to put that point right here. This is 0, 8.3. And I'm going to be shading above, okay? So then I want to go to my second point. I'm going to use this time I'm going to use y being 0. If y is 0, I am going to have this equation. 55x is greater or equal to 500. What is my x value going to be when I take 500 and divide it by 55? what was it? 9.0. So not about 9.1 if we wanted to round it, right? That's this point right here. So we were shading below, if we looked at the blue line, we were shading below that blue line. We are going to shade above this pink line, and they are both equal. So right now it looked like it was here, but the other piece of information, they said that the friend who drives slower wants to drive fewer hours. The friend who drives slower, that's X, is our slower person. So X, they always want to drive, if we are looking at it, we want the person Y who's driving faster to drive more hours, right? I don't care which way you write it. If you put X is less than Y, to me it makes more sense to put it this way. My slope is 1, my y-intercept is 0, and it's a dashed line, and I'm shading everything above, and that's why they have this solution as you took a look at that. The test is going to be more on these type of questions than writing the story part. So if you got 11 to 21 done and you were able to check those answers, that's what I'm going to be taking a look at for today. The other thing that I would like you to take a look at is we're going to turn and look at what's in the notes, and I will look at 33 afterwards and 31, but I want to get this part started for you. The test is tomorrow, Thursday. This is page 23 in your notes. Okay. So on page 23, there's going to be 8 questions and 50 points. Those 50 points I'll be putting it in as a grade out of 100%. Okay. So there's 50 points. The first 4 questions are just going to be like the D6, where you're writing those equations. They're going to be like the D5, where you had to write those equations. So I can model a real-world problem using linear systems. You need to write a system for break-even. You'd want to tell me one's expense and one's going to be the profits. You want to be able to do a mixture problem, write the equation for it. A wind speed, or if you want to think of it as a boat speed or a current problem. And what you'll do is you'll write 2 equations for each one. So those 4 questions, each one is 6 points each. Each equation is 3 points. So it's going to be 3 points for each equation you write. Okay? So I'll look. Did you understand how to write the x plus y is equal to 10, and then 55 plus x equals plus 60y equals 500? So those would be your 2 equations that I'd look at. So I'll look at 2 equations that you write for each one. I would definitely make sure you go back and look over all of those main ones, the break-even, mixture, and wind speed, but then I'd also look at the D5 where we did the simpler ones, right, where they're sometimes in standard form. And I would say if you've done D6 and you wrote all those equations, you're probably going to be okay because you've probably seen one. Plus tonight's homework that you're working on, you're going to see more of those. The second standard that we are looking at is I can solve algebraically. I don't care at this point if you use substitution or elimination. So what you'll do is you'll take this part of the test, you'll turn that in. Once you break your 4 equations or your 4 problems, you'll turn that in. I'll give you another sheet of paper. The other sheet of paper will actually have the correct equations on it. Because what we found in the past is sometimes students don't write the correct equations here, and then they go to solve it, and they can't solve it correctly because they don't have the right equation. So this will be one part that I'll grade. That'll be the first 24 points that I'm looking at. Then I'll give you this next part, and you will have 2 of those problems that were up here that you are going to solve algebraically. So when you take a look at those 2 questions, they're going to be 6 points each. And then we are going to be taking a look at the graphing ones. And like I said, the graphing problems are going to be more like when you take a look at page 403. It's going to be more like questions 11 to that first part to 21. It's going to be more like those. Each question is going to be 7 points. So when I look at the homework, I'm going to look, did you find the right slope, the right y-intercept? Did you shade the right spot? For the second equation, did you find the right point? For the y-intercept, did you use the right slope? Did you use the right kind of line, dashed or solid? And then after you're done shading, I'm going to ask you, well, what is one possible solution? So yesterday we did that in our notes. Question 31 was kind of looking at that. One is one possible solution. So then you'll tell me, oh, the number could be this and this. The thing with the story problems, when you answer these, a lot of you aren't, when I look at your homework, you're just putting like an ordered pair for your answer, or you're telling me it's 40 or it's 30 or it's, and you're not answering the question like with 30 hours. It is going to be 4 milliliters or 4 kilograms. You're not answering of the 4%. You're not putting the full answer. So just make sure when you do these, that is one of the parts with solving it, is that you answer the question, okay? And what I'm referring to there is kind of like when you look at these and you answered the question and you told me, oh, they were going 4.5 and, oh, they spent this much, so that 235 from this, that we were talking about 75 chairs, that we were talking about $2,000 at 9% and $4,000 at 5%. So when you answer the questions, make sure you take a look at that part, okay? So, this is kind of what's gonna be on the test. At least 25, does that mean we wanna spend $20 or $30? $30, right, at least. So, when we write that first equation, we're probably gonna have a greater or equal to 25, okay? And it tells us what X and Y are gonna be. It tells us X is our paperback and Y is our hardcover. So, these are gonna be my hardback books. These are gonna be my paperback. So making sure on this test you don't have to because it'll be X and Y. But what do I know about the hardcover if I'm looking at those as my $7 for those and $7 for the paperback and $14 for the hardcover? So when I take a look at that, I'm going to write the equation like 7x plus 14y. Does that make sense to everyone when you take a look at that? Write the second equation, which is going to look a lot like this, right? Except now we want to say that we want to spend, our gift card is only $60. So like question 31, this time can we spend 65 or can we only spend 55? If our gift card is 60. Less or equal to 60, right? We can't spend more than 60. We don't have that on our gift card unless you're going to front the other money, right? So, less or equal, is the equation the same? They're going to be parallel, right? You look at the equations, these are ugly to write in slope-intercept form. You do not want to do slope-intercept. You want to do for each of these, what is your y-intercept? What is your x-intercept? What is your y-intercept? What is your x-intercept? Replace x with 0. Oh, 25 divided by 14. That's going to give me my number here, right? So you want to find those points to do that one as you look at it. Homework, make sure you're writing those equations and checking them. I think I have the answers in the back for you. That this one should kind of help you as you looked at 31. And again, on your homework that you're turning in, I am more concerned that you had 11 to 25 done and then you got all the story problems. You should have 27 because we did that one in class.